So if we now look at our life in relation to notion of multiple lives and rebirth, and I'll try to show how this functions in relation to how the mind is. So we were looking before at how our sense of ourself develops through interactions in our family, in school, and so on. And we have a sense of being this particular person. And then there's a question, well, where did we come from? So we know that our parents had sex, and from the meeting of this male and female essence, our body starts to unpack. You can understand it in terms of DNA or various other ways. From the Buddhist point of view, it is a tripartite meeting. You have the male energy and the female energy meeting at the uterus, and at the moment when conception occurs, the third element, which is consciousness arriving, enters into this. And then our life unfolds. Now there are different kinds of birth. There's womb birth, egg birth, heat and light birth, and lotus birth. So according to Indian and Tibetan understanding, you can be born in a different way. Clearly we know about egg birth. All the birds are born from eggs. The egg has to be fertilized. Heat and moisture is what you can experience in India sometimes, especially in the monsoon. You're walking along the road and suddenly out of a little hole in the ground you see a whole stream of flying ants or some creatures coming out, and it looks as if they've come into existence out of heat and light. And then we have a lotus birth, which is, if you like, a kind of virgin birth. In the Christian tradition we have Mary with the Annunciation, and in the Indian tradition you have like Padmasambhava, who is born on a lotus, and the lotus represents purity. Lotus is also a term for the introitus, for the beginning of the vagina. So which particular lotus it was would depend on your notion of history. The big problem, of course, is that in many cultures, because of misogyny, the vagina is seen as something impure because of menstruation and so on. But if you see it just as the symbol of emptiness, which it also is, then it's completely pure. So consciousness arrives at this potential of the meeting point of germination, of the unfolding of a new life. Where does the consciousness come from? And what is consciousness? So now I explained from the point of view of Dzogchen how the world of delusion starts. So it begins with reflection on the ground or the basis or the source. This is that which is. That which is has never come into existence. It is unconditioned. It's self-originating. It just is. It is immeasurable. You can't allocate any size or depth or shape to it. It's an infinite expanse. It's inexpressible. You can't say anything definite about it. And it's free of any attribution of the names of samsara or nirvana. This is the description of it that comes from the primordial Buddha Samantabhadra. So this is the ground of existence, the ground of our own mind. if you recognize that ground, which is infinite emptiness, which is also a plenum void, a void which fills itself ceaselessly, then the clarity of that recognition is called rigpa, or awareness. When that ground is not seen clearly, you have non-awareness, or marigpa. And, sometimes it's translated as ignorance, but ignorance would indicate some kind of fixed state, whereas in fact it's an ongoing unfolding of ignoring. Who does the ignoring? No one. It arises from the ground, because as the texts say, there is one ground and two paths. The ground is open, there is awareness of the ground and not awareness of the ground. And these form the two paths which give rise to the two fruits of liberation or nirvana and obscuration, which is samsara. Why is it like this? When you get enlightened, you ask Samantabhadra. He knows, we don't know. It just is. It just is. Nobody does it. And this is very, very important. But in the non-recognition of openness, the openness is still there. It's very big, infinite. Not seeing this bigness as the ground of your own being, not as a person, James, now I recognize that I really am infinite. It's not like that, because there is nobody there to do the recognizing. It's just the clarity, which is why traditionally we use the example of the mirror. The mirror shows the openness. The mirror is just empty and open, and it shows. So what you have here is the showing, which is, if you like, self-reflexive. It's present to itself. And then you also have the possibility of absent to itself. But the self, or the self is of course the wrong word, but the openness is here, and there is a non-recognition that the clarity which reveals the openness is inseparable from the openness. So it's as if the clarity turns towards the openness as if it were a thing, at which point the clarity goes unconscious, because you can't make sense of it. You can't grasp it or comprehend it. Then there is, from this, there is an awakening, a return, and that return is a bit misty and foggy. And according to the traditional Dzogchen text, it says gradually there is a thickening of this kind of miasma, or like a morning mist. At first it might be like little wisps of mist, but gradually this mist becomes more dense and more dense and more dense. And then you only have like the fog. So some of you living in this kind of country place may have that experience. You go walking in the hills, and the weather starts to change and it gets a little bit misty, and at a certain point you can't see what's going on. You can't see your hand in front of your face. That kind of thick mist is very difficult, because the hill is there, the hill is as it is, nothing has changed, but it is, you can't find what is there. And the mist, as it were, turns you back on yourself, and you start to imagine. So if you took that as a metaphor, what's activated then is like a fragmentation. So if you imagine light going into a crystal, and it comes out with different kinds of light, but there is a kind of density or solidification that goes with the light. And now there appears to be many different things. And as the many different things start to interact, they move in the form of subject and object. And out of this movement, you have a lot of differentiation of the possibilities of the subject side and of the object side. And from this, gradually the 6 realms of samsara, the hell realms, jealous gods, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and hell realms arise. So this is how samsara unfolds. At a certain stage in this process, consciousness arises. Consciousness is not different from awareness, but it's like awareness on a bad hair day. It doesn't feel like itself. The awareness is trying to apprehend what it is attending to. So if you think again of the example of a mirror, the mirror just shows. It's not doing any interpreting or editing or making sense of or commentaries about it. It just shows. So this is like the quality of Rigpa, it just shows. But our consciousness, which is a dualistic formation, is taking hold of, apprehending what is arising. So in the Tibetan language, the word for consciousness is Nampar Shepa. Shepa means to know, or at least to reveal or to illuminate, which is really the basis of knowing, isn't it? When you know something, it illuminates not just the thing itself, as it were, but what is necessary. So, for example, you might get up in the morning and open your front door and, oh, well, it's a bit cold today. So you go back into the house and you put on an extra coat. So that's a kind of knowing. You both know the cold and it has implications. And these implications unfold. But this shepa of illuminating or seeing, or in that very open sense knowing, is linked with nampa, which means like a shape. You know something. You know something. And on the basis of knowing something, you now can take hold of it. This is a tree. This is a Volkswagen car. This bread has no taste. This is terrible coffee. We know something, and we're able to, by apprehending it, by taking hold of it, we can then locate it in a field of meanings where, by comparing and contrasting, we're able to identify it. We say this is an old motor car, this is a new motor car. We say this is a big tree or a small tree, this is a young person or an old person. You apprehend person, and then you can say young or old. Because you know, having identified this is a human being, what arises in your mind is a set of criteria for evaluating human beings, whether they are sick or healthy, whether they are dangerous, whether they're sexually interesting, whatever it would be. These various criteria allocate what you do. So this is consciousness. Consciousness takes an object. So consciousness is not somebody being conscious. Consciousness is a movement of energy. Okay? So, say I don't know, say you like wine, and you go into a pub and you ask for a glass of wine. You bring it up, you smell it a little bit, then you bring it to your lips. Is it good or bad? Is it pleasing or unpleasing? You have some criteria to apply to this. So what is going on? Some scent is arising from the surface of the wine, it's going into your nostrils, and there's a response. This is a description of a process. You lift the glass to your lips, you put some on in your lips, some comes into your mouth, it moves around inside your mouth, some response from the taste buds arise, you come to some conclusion about whether you like it or not. This is a process. It's a process of interaction between subject and object. Who is doing it? Well, we say, I am doing it. I have tried this wine and I don't like it. The wine comes up to our mouth. We say, this is my mouth. The wine is now in the mouth. Some taste buds are being affected. My taste buds. I decide I like it or I don't like it. There is a taste. And then there is a commentary on the taste. I don't like it. This is horrible. You, having a glass from the same bottle, taste it and say, not so bad. Not so bad, huh? I would normally drink the Gamay grape, but anyway, it's not so bad. But it's terrible. No, come on, it's not so bad. If the wine was definitely good or bad, we would all agree. So what I have is my psychophysical, psychosomatic, but also social response to the wine. Because if I grew up in an area where they have the Gamay grape, like in Beaujolais, then I would have become accustomed to that taste. So I might like it. But if I grew up with Cabernet Sauvignon, and then somebody gives me even quite a good Pinot Noir, I say, very thin. This is not a proper wine. This is my social construction of my criteria for evaluating the wine. And it rings true for me. It's how I enter into relationship with the wine, or it could be like some people like Earl Grey tea. Some people don't. Some people like very fine tea. Some people like Assamese tea, which is quite dense. Some people like tea from Kenya, which is again more heavy. So according to your history and your palate, something becomes attributed as good or bad. It is relational. Who says good or bad? I do. On the basis of what? On the basis of speaking. Because every language has to have personal pronouns in it. If I recall from when I studied linguistics, there's no language in the world without personal pronouns. Because language is used to indicate relational connectivity between what we take to be I and other people. So we take the linguistic signifier I as if it is referring to something already existing. When I say I don't like this wine, I, as the one who doesn't like this wine, am being called into existence in the moment of tasting the wine. Yeah? The James that doesn't like this glass of wine didn't exist before tasting the glass of wine. So I is a potential which is constellated in particular circumstances. Yeah? Like some people like Darjeeling tea. Darjeeling tea is famous because of its scent and its color, but it doesn't have much flavor. It's just how it is. You can pay a lot of money for it, but it doesn't have much flavor. It's the same many people would say about champagne. Spend a lot of money on bubbles. Why bother? So these are opinions, not facts. And opinions are always embodied. They arise for us due to our particular constellation as a person, which can be influenced by our health, the time of the year, whether we are in a good mood or a bad mood, whether we are tired, whether we are on holiday. All sorts of things can influence how a wine tastes or a cup of tea tastes. So the key point here is that the sense of I is a commentary after the fact of the experience which is revealed in the clarity of the unfolding of the experience, which shows itself as subject and object as unfolding. So the formation of the object shows itself. Just like in a movie, or you're reading a novel. When you read a novel, there is a person in a situation. And as you go through the different situations, you see the character changing. So you like to read Jane Eyre. And there's the poor little abandoned Jane in this horrible school. And then there's Jane leaving and becoming a governess. And then there's hope-filled Jane about to get married. And then there's desolate Jane humiliated in the church. And then. And in each of these situations, who we feel Jane to be brings up feelings in ourselves. And what is evoking that is Jane in context. Does that seem right? So that's what novels do. They allow us to see the showing of the potential of the person according to changes in the situation. So who is the real Jane Eyre? At what point in the novel do we see who Jane really is? Each stage is Jane being Jane. But where is the essence of Jane? It's the same for us. There is no essence to us. And that's what it means in Buddhism by there is no self. It doesn't mean that you don't exist and you don't have experience, but the experience is relational. It arises in interaction. It doesn't manifest as a kind of X-ray of your soul. It's how you manifest according to these events. And in each situation, you can be authentic. That is to say, you can ring true, but it's not the true you. Does that make sense? So, something happens and you feel really sad. Or something happens and you cook up a storm. So, little children, age 2.5, 3, become quite good as politicians usually. They work out who they can milk the situation for to get more attention. So they fall over and the mum, a bit anxious, gives them a hug and they cry more to get more hug. Are they really upset? No. But they're getting what they want. They're playing the system. They're being inauthentic in the authentic pursuit of what they want, which is undivided mother's attention. So that's the politics of attention, because the subject always needs attention from other people. Because the I is empty. It drains away. It drains away. One hug is not enough for a child. It needs more. Because it bleeds out. It's leaking. It's leaking. The self is always emptying, moment by moment. That's what impermanence is. So you take the child to the park and you push them on the swings. And half an hour later, you're still pushing them on the bloody swing. Do it again, do it again. Once is never enough. Because it's, it's gone, it's gone. This is our mind, filling and emptying, filling and emptying. Gone. Here. Gone. Who is this happening to? That is the commentary after the fact. So this is the main reversal that a Buddhist understanding invites you to see. It's not me first, it's always me second. Life comes first, I come after. But I justify my importance by saying I come first. So the I is always trying to distort time by claiming mastery, agency, dominance, control. As if the I, the felt sense of being a subject, was a thing which continues in its own form, with its own substantial integrity through time. So Buddhism is not saying there is no continuity through time, but it's not substantial. For example, some of you drove quite a long way to get here, and in the car you have a wing mirror, or two wing mirrors, and the mirror is filling and emptying with reflection. It's doing that again and again and again. Filling and emptying. Cars are coming to overtake you, you're swerving, you go around the corner. In the course of your journey, maybe 10,000, 100,000 reflections are arising. The reflection is only possible because the mirror is there. The reflection is only possible because the mirror has no substantial content of its own. It is the empty clarity of the mirror that allows it to show 100,000 reflections. And the reflection arises due to the open potential, the generosity of clarity of the mirror, but the mirror doesn't decide what's going to happen. Just as in our lives, we're not in charge of our lives, but neither are we just a slave, but we are moving with circumstances, but the circumstances announce themselves. So, there is no substantial I, but there is a functioning I, which functions because it's empty of inherent self-nature. The I works because it's empty. So if this becomes clear for you, then life becomes a lot easier. Otherwise, you would just be like an old-fashioned record that had a scratch on it. I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired. But now I need a pee. What the fuck am I going to do? I'm tired. I can't have a pee as well. Because I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired. So the record keeps playing. Life is going on. I'm tired, I need to go to the toilet, I'm hungry, what's on the telly, time to phone a friend. More and more stories. I is there present in all of these, but it's only able to be present because it's empty. We're here in this hall because this is a multi-purpose hall. This hall was built, as it says on the stone on the outside, as a Sunday school building, a Wesleyan Sunday school building. Wesleyans would not normally be inviting Buddhists to use their premises. So the Wesleyanness has been taken out of the hall. It's now a community arts centre, and it's multi-purpose. That is to say, it's not defined by being a church hall or a drama centre, but it's a place in which many things are possible. That is to say, it is a space of possibilities. It is a space with potential. That's why it's useful. This is like the mind. The mind is a space which has potential and so responds in different ways. Just as there's a stage here, we could have a drama, or we could have a dance show, or we could have a children's Christmas party. There's endless possibilities because the space is not overdetermined. If this was a traditional church with pews, and the pews were screwed into the floor, then the possibilities of using the space are very limited, because the layout of the furniture directs and determines the utilization of the space. Does that make sense? It is the fact that we don't have fixed furniture that allows us to be more responsive. If, unfortunately, we fall under the power of various kinds of conditions like obsessive compulsive disorder, or chronic anxiety, we fill ourselves from the inside out with this particular disposition. We are predisposed to feel social anxiety. So, as it were, I'm preoccupied with what's arising from me, and so I don't have much space to respond to circumstances. And that's why mental troubles are not much fun. They are limitations of our potential. When we are relaxed and open, we have more contact with our potential, which means we can be called into being in different ways by different settings. So there you've got wisdom and compassion. The wisdom is the openness that we find in ourselves, and the compassion is the responsiveness which can arise. But if you're feeling very anxious, even if you want to help someone, and they say, I've been invited to this social occasion and I don't like to go alone, would you please come with me? Why are you asking me? I hate these social events. I get all hot and sweaty and I don't know what to say and I want to run away. So that my preoccupation, my overdeterminedness by my own social anxiety inhibits my possibility of responding. I like you, I want to make you happy, but I just can't. And we probably all know this in relation to aspects of our personality, that there are certain doors in life that we see other people going through, but we feel we can't go through, that it's just not possible. So, the function of the meditation is to find the ever open ground and to find a way to inhabit that open ground. This is what is called Rigpa. Rigpa never loses the open ground. Consciousness never finds the open ground. So no matter how hard you try from the point of view of consciousness, you won't find the open ground. Because consciousness always takes an object, but the open ground isn't an object. So if this is clear, it helps you to avoid lots of problems that arise in meditation. I want to find the true nature of my mind. Never will. It's not a thing. You can find your car keys. You can find the bill that you forgot to pay last month. It's hidden under a pile of papers. But you can't find your Buddha nature because it's not a thing. The Buddha nature is already present as the basis of your movement in the world, but you don't see it because you are addicted to seeing things, to getting things, to having things, and it's not a thing. So it doesn't fit inside your frame of reference. It doesn't register. That's the issue. It just doesn't register. There are lots of things in the world that we don't see because we've no idea how to look for them. For example, outside there are lots of stones in the garden, but we don't know anything about these stones because we look at them and it's like, why would I be looking at little stones in the garden? Why? No reason to look. No reason to look means no reason to see. I don't see them. We are always editing the field of experience, highlighting, making things figural or foregrounded according to our disposition and our interests. And so, although we may imagine we have a broad spectrum attention to the world, we're still highly selective. And this is because we are located inside dualistic consciousness. So how do we move out of dualistic consciousness? Do less. The key instruction in the practice is to relax and release. Relax the arousal which stems from the sense that there is a lack inside me and there are things in the world which can repair my lack. If only I had that, then I would be happy. It's not true. is really, really not true. There is nothing in the world that will make you happy forever. It's just not true. Why? Because of impermanence. Everything changes. I happened by chance on a pile of old love letters. Wow. The things that are said by people falling in love, and then the letters coming 6 months later, they're quite different. This is illusion. Grand statements. I'll always love you. You are the most special person I ever met. And so on, for a while. The answer doesn't lie in the object. But we are object fixated because we live in duality, which is the field of interaction of the subject and the object. So the subject is always looking for the right kind of object that will make things okay, and it never finds it. Who is the one who is looking? This is the central question. So we can do a little bit of meditation practice around this now. Some of you know this this practice very well. It's not complicated in its form. Here we are, we're sitting. And we're here. And experience is arising. Usually we do this practice with our arms a little bit open, arms on the knees, so the chest is quite open. The gaze is into space in front of us, about 2 arms length in front, so we're not staring at the distant wall, but we're just resting in the space. And because the eyes are open, all the senses are open, life is going on. You might see people moving, or you hear sounds. And we're just with whatever happens. So all we're doing is being here, present with whatever happens, which means we don't have to interpret or explain or judge or choose. We're just open. So we'll do this practice many times over these next few days. We don't do it for very long because it's not about making effort or trying to do something, but rather of finding yourself just relaxed and open and seeing what happens. The invitation to get involved, to construct, to make things happen is always present for us in our stream of potential. And it takes a while to have the sense you don't need to activate involvement. There's nothing which is required to do. If you don't do anything, life goes on. The interventions you make, selecting this thought, crushing that feeling, and so on, not necessary. That is to say, by recognizing that the movement of the ego is irrelevant, there is more space to awaken to unborn awareness. But the more you stay identified with the ego's choices and plans and constructions, there is a concentration, a focusing, an intoxication, which means that the expansive awareness is not so easily seen. So gradually bring this towards the topic of death. So this ground, this unchanging ground, it's not a thing. It doesn't get old. It never changes. It's in the tradition it's called Vajra or indestructible. It is the infinity of awareness which is the basis of all experience. Moving within it are the forms of subject and object. When these forms are seen clearly, they are just pulsations of energy. If you look at it from the tantric point of view, you would see this as two deities together, like Padmasambhava and Yeshitsogya, or Heruka and Vajravarai. The tantric symbolism means that the subject and object represented as deities in sexual intercourse means that they are moving together, and this movement generates the creation of all the forms of the world. So in that sense, the world is a divine mandala, or an open situation of lucidity, free of substance, but replete with experience, of clarity, of shiningness, of colors and shapes. From the point of view of Dzogchen, this energy manifests in three main forms. One is like the mirror. As the reflection arises in the mirror is not doing anything. The mirror is just there, and the potential of the mirror, when it meets the object presented in front of it, gives rise to the reflection. The mirror doesn't make a reflection. It's not like an apple tree giving a flower and then the flower ripening and gradually there is an apple. There aren't stages of production. As soon as something's in front of the mirror, the reflection is there. So in this way, the mind shows just instantly. Then another example is if a crystal ball is put on red cloth, it looks a bit red. If it's on blue cloth, it looks a bit blue. It means that the translucency of the mind has no need to defend itself against whatever is arising. The mind stays open and different forms arise. And while they arise, it looks red or it looks green. So, for example, you might be meditating and you become angry or sad or confused. You might think, I'm wasting my time, I don't know what I'm doing, this is stupid. All kind of feeling tones could arise. And then they go. Just like you put the crystal ball on the red cloth and it looks red. Now I'm sitting here bored in this stupid fucking meditation and it never works for me and I don't know why I keep trying. Okay. So some feeling tone is arising. What does it define? It's just an arising. If you stay, it goes. If you go into it and you think, this is true, this is hopeless, I can't do this, some people can meditate, but I can't meditate, and you start weaving a whole texture, no matter how bad it is, it's just red color in the crystal. The crystal is not red, it appears to be red. When you put it on the blue cloth, it doesn't look red anymore, it looks a bit blue. Now you have a break, we go outside, you have a cigarette, you look at the sky, think, oh, this is better. Meditation, nul point. Cigarette. So, sad girl is now happy girl. Then somebody says something to happy girl, now she's angry girl. Like that. We are moment by moment filling and emptying with these colorations. Are they the truth about us? Or, put it another way, can I be truthful in seeing that I am fickle? I am unreliable. I am ever changing. Because if I am ever changing and now I'm jealous, I'm just jealous. But if I'm James and I want to appear as a nice guy and I want you to think that I'm very balanced and sorted, then I don't want to be jealous, or certainly I don't want you to know that I'm jealous. So now I can't say, oh, this is arising, because I have to pretend. No? Then we see, this is the difference between the ego and awareness. The ego is trying to maintain an image of itself, because that's all that the ego is. It is the image of the self. Whereas awareness shows a lot more. Sometimes we're not happy. Sometimes we're not very kind. Sometimes we're bored, we're indifferent, we don't care. We've just had enough. I don't care. Well, fuck off, leave me alone. We like that. We don't want to say that to other people. Because if you knew how I really was, you wouldn't like me. This is the worry of the ego. But if you knew I was like that for a while due to circumstances, who would it be that you don't like? On Tuesday morning, I got really pissed off. And now you know that on Tuesday morning, I got really pissed off. And you don't like the James who got really pissed off on Tuesday morning. Well, that's okay, it's Friday. Who is it you don't like? But we feel now they've understood something about me. I'm not very nice. They've caught me. And the reason you've caught me is because I'm catchable. And this is the ego. The ego always fears being caught, but awareness cannot be caught. When you have something really horrible and you place it in front of the mirror will reflect that. Do we say it's a horrible mirror? We might say it's a horrible reflection, but it's not the mirror that's horrible. This is the basis of freedom. But if you identify yourself with the reflection, oh, I got really jealous and everyone knew, and oh, I don't want to see these people anymore. Because now they know about me. That's reflection, isn't it? Because actually, I'm feeling much better today. So that's gone, but the fear remains, because now you know who I could be. Not who I am, but who I could be. Therefore, it's very useful to know I can be angry, I can be jealous, I can be proud, I can be kind, I can be selfish, I can be 1,000 million things. So in the Tantric tradition, we have Padmasambhava, and he has 8 main forms and hundreds of thousands of forms. In fact, everything is a form of Padmasambhava. Everything is a form of Tara. It means nasty, shitty Tara, selfish, mean Tara, torturing Tara, infinitely cruel Tara, because everything is Tara. No, Tara couldn't be cruel. She's really nice. No, then cruelty is really real. Yes. No. Yes. No. Everything is empty, but not cruelty. Torturers are not empty. They're horrible. Horrible is empty. It's horrible and it's empty. It's form and emptiness. The fear of being caught is because we are attached. We do the grasping, and the grasper feels to be grasped. We grasp at ourselves, and we say, I am like this, I am like that. We grasp at other people and say, oh, this person's really beautiful, this person's not so beautiful. I don't want to go here, I want to go there. We are attributing value. We're pumping it out, and then when we fear it's going to be pumped onto us. But the mirror is the same whether it's got a beautiful image or an ugly image. The crystal ball is on the red cloth or the blue cloth. And then you put it on the lime green cloth and it looks a little bit sickly. Does it matter to the crystal? The light is just passing through. Just passing through. So this is why we do this particular kind of meditation. We sit, eyes are open, we're open. We're like the sky. Clouds are passing through. Some thoughts, some feelings, some memory, excited, bored, happy, sad, whatever it is, it's just passing through. The goal of the meditation is to realize that the mind is like the sky. In the sky has no policeman. The sky has no bouncer. Good thoughts come in, bad thoughts come in. The sky fills with snow, the sky fills with thunder clouds, the sky fills with soft rain, the sky fills with sunshine. The sky doesn't mind. The sky is not affected. We also just funny stuff, weird shit. Feeling happy, feeling sad. Not a policeman. Come and go. My mind is a public park. My mind is not a private garden. My mind does not belong to me. Me is a thought that arises in my mind. Yeah? My mind does not belong to me. Me is not the signifier. Me is not the guarantor. Me is a thought that arises in my mind and then goes. And then goes. So whatever conclusion we come to, it just goes. How long is a conclusion there for? It's hard work to keep hating. When I was a kid, I fought with my brother a lot for many years. And we had to keep fighting. We couldn't just have a fight one day and that would be that. We kept fighting. We fought over anything at all. Because it's a full-time activity to maintain a state of I don't like my brother. It is performative. There are no fixed states. You perform it again and again and again. It is activity. Activity is the movement of the mind. The mind doesn't move, the activity moves. When you're driving and you look in the wing mirror, the reflections are arising and passing in the mirror. The mirror's not doing anything. If you like, the mirror's not moving, it's just there. But the reflections are coming and going, coming and going. The thoughts and feelings are coming and going in the mind. When we enter into duality, we identify with one arena of what is arising and call it self. And in that moment, we identify everything else which arises as other. There is self and other. So, you're in the kitchen and you're making biscuits. So in the bowl, you mix up the dough, and then you roll it out, and then you have your biscuit cutter. So at first you just have a big surface with the biscuit dough. And then you take your little star shape and you put it in the dough. Now you have a star, and you take it out. Now there's a hole in the dough. Self and other. What is the ingredients of self? The same as the dough. They are not intrinsically separate, but one's a star and the rest isn't a star. The identification of star is conventional. It is an idea. Oh, that's the star. I want the star one. Why have you given the star one to him? It was for me. You said you. Oy, oy, oy. That is so horrible being a child. And you're completely at the mercy of the shape of the biscuit. So, it's all the same. No, it isn't. That's a better one. My one. So that's what we do in our life. Me, my one. No real difference. Everyone's breathing in and out, walking and talking. But once we've got our shape, we're constantly defending not just its integrity, but its difference and its specialness. Although it's basically the same. All phenomena are inherently empty, devoid of inherent self-nature. The attributed self-nature arises due to the use of signs, particularly linguistic signs. So, the notion of self is functional. That is to say, it is a utility. It's something which is used in the dynamics of the unfolding of experience. It's not a thing, it is a mode of participation. Yeah? A mode of participation. So, there's a lot of sociological writing on the nature of role definition. And social attribution of roles gives permissions or blocks permission. So in many countries, especially under traditional patriarchy, there are a lot of prohibitions on girls and women engaging in activities. So now we've got some change in Saudi Arabia. Women are going to be allowed to drive cars by themselves. In other countries, they've been free to do that for many years. But I can drive a car. Why shouldn't I drive a car? That's when it feels intrinsic. Why shouldn't I? But in another culture, it's seen very much as an attribution. This is something given to you by the state. And if the state withdraws it, you won't have it. Under National Socialism in Germany, many people who began their lives with freedom ended up in concentration camps being killed. Because what they took to be their natural rights as citizens was gradually withdrawn by the fascist state, leading to their death. So it's all very well to talk about the United Nations Charter of Human Rights, but all of these are performative. They're maintained by the actions of people. Nobody has stopped Putin sending planes to kill innocent people in Syria. Nobody is protecting their civil rights. This is a fact. Because it's all blah, blah, blah. It's just conventional truth. We are good, they are bad, we're going to stop them. But it will cost us too much to stop them. Mr. Obama and his red line. Lying and cheating. Lying and cheating and pretending to be good when you're bad, pretending to be brave when you're cowardly, is not very inspiring. But we look in the mirror, we say, oh, that's me too. Because these are the patternings of the energy when it's under the power of the ego. So instead of participating as part of the dough, I'm just this shape of the universal dough. I say, I'm different. I'm better than you. I can make this happen and not that happen. So this is the ego's problem, is that it takes itself to be independent when it's actually highly dependent. And it's highly dependent because it's participative. So in the traditional Buddhist text, they talk, they say our world is unborn and unceasing. Unborn means nothing comes into true existence. Or in a more symbolic language, everything is within the womb of the Great Mother. The Great Mother's womb is emptiness. Everything is like a dream or an illusion. So nothing has really occurred, and yet manifestation is unceasing. The manifestation is not something, but it is display, and the different forms of the display are impactful. So this is the main point. The mind is infinite. The ego is the energy of the infinite mind. The ego functions to maintain itself by forgetting that it is the energy of the infinite mind and pretends to be a self-existing phenomena and invents pseudo-histories, fake news about itself, and projects this into the world. And so in living a lie, it's concerned to tell more lies to maintain the fundamental deceit. What is not done is to see the ground of being. The ground of being hasn't gone away. It's not hidden or covered over by anything except the habit of not looking. So, Tibetans say, it's like the farmer who goes out looking on the hill to find his cow when the cow is safe in the byre. The cow is not lost. The cow is where the cow should be. But if you look on the hill, you won't find the cow. And then the more you look on the hill, the more you say, hey, that cow is lost. It's really, really lost. but it's safe at home. The mind is where it always is, just here. But if you chase thoughts, thinking the thought will take you to the mind, you're going to have a big problem. The way thoughts will lead you to the mind is not by going into the thought, but by observing the vanishing of the thought. The vanishing of the thought is like the cloud, a fine summertime cloud, dissolving back into the sky. Oh, the thought, I'm in the thought, and now it dissolves. The thought was in the sky. The sky was open and generously offering hospitality to the thought. The thought didn't displace the sky. It's not either or. You don't lose the sky to get the cloud. The cloud is inseparable. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Cloud is sky. Sky is cloud. But when you see the cloud dissolve, then you see the sky. The cloud comes out of the sky and goes into the sky. The thought comes out of the empty open mind, unchanging awareness, and all the troubles of samsara are not two separate domains. So this is a basic understanding, and if you see this, then understanding death is much easier. Because the one who dies is inseparable from the ground. In the process of death is to return to the moment of the unveiling of the open sky. But if you spend your time as a cloud technician and you develop a lot of skills of cloud development, when you come in death to see the clear sky, what you going to do? No clouds. Clear sky vanishes, and then you get some more clouds, and you get born again and born again and born again. Because you like clouds. Okay, shall we take a break there? Bit of fresh air, lots of ideas. Then we come back and do some more practice.